This is the 14th of March, 2022. My name is Alfie Brown. This is a comedy podcast, nominally, in which the stand-up comedian, me, Alfie Brown, speaks about various things for a varying amount of time. If that sounds like something that you would like, then and you're watching this on YouTube, then why not hit the subscribe button? If you're listening and you're not subscribed, then why not subscribe? And if you're listening and you haven't left a review on your respective podcast app of choice, then why not do that? But I know that half of the listeners, or maybe more, who watch this on YouTube aren't subscribed. It would really help me out a great deal if you would subscribe now without wanting to pressure you. I don't want to put any pressure on you. I just want you to know how much it would mean to me. In this episode, it's a little bit different. I usually write out a structure for them. I haven't written out a structure today. It is entirely whatever was in my heart flows out of me. And that ranges from being accepted for a credit card, a surprise call from Jessie that I receive, pick up and put on speaker, and that is breaking news. It is hot gossip and it is not to be missed. If you care at all about what's going on in my life. If you don't, then it's not hot. It's tepid gossip at its most. The most you could exaggerate the heat would be to call it tepid. It could even be cold gossip to you, depending on. But if you watching this, maybe you care a little bit. Who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, without wanting to go insane during the introduction for a second week in a row, may I give you, please, from the bottom of my heart, my greatest thanks for watching. This is the Alfie Brown Show. So I'm recording on the 14th of March 2022. What I usually like to do is, not sure how dedicated a listener you are to this podcast, but if you are a supporter or even an ultra, if you are one of the ultras of the podcast, then maybe you'll know that I work to a scrappy agenda. I have an agenda for the podcast and I try and stick to it as best I can. And what I like to do is work my way through the different points on the agenda. And if there's, I like to have ever so slightly more than I need to. I usually end up hanging around on one thing for ever so slightly too long and then having the less interesting addendum points on there. As little kind of bonus bits and bobs. Today, I have made what I will term an artistic decision because there was no need for me to record a podcast today. I wasn't due to do one. I didn't need to do one, but I wanted to know what it would be like if I tried to record one without having any bullet points or agenda whatsoever. So what I'm telling you in this episode is what is in my heart. And I wonder what that's going to be. What's the first thing that pops into my head? I've just been accepted for a credit card. Could you believe it? After years and years of credit rating indignity, to after all this time have made it up to the lofty heights of somebody who the good people at American Express, no less, deem worthy of being lent money for a fee. Well, what a spring in my step that has put. Essentially, as I am aware, I'm like many people of my generation, have a credit rating ailment, an injury. I have no credit rating to speak of because I have spent a lot of money. Credit rating doesn't actually mean that you haven't necessarily not earned a lot of money, although I have spent a lot of my life not earning very much money, as can sometimes happen when you pursue a passion. What I've done is as well as pursuing a passion and therefore not having earned as much money as maybe I would have if I'd become salaried and entered into the system to a slightly greater extent. I also am just quite bad at administrative day-to-day bill paying and stuff. So I have had a few letters through the post that cause anxiety attacks and horror, as they say. You haven't paid a bill. Why have you set about in this calculated assault on who we are as a business? Why would you insult us like this? You forget to pay a bill? Who are you? I'm now. We're going to put you through to Robson's Debt Collection Agency in Leeds, so that they can ring you up and be very sensitive to. Hello, how's it going? Good to see you. So the thing is that you owe us like £5,000. So we were just wondering if maybe you'd like to pay that. Obviously, if you can't pay that, oh yes. What if I can't pay it? Well, you will have to. You see, there is the need to pay it, but we could come up with a payment plan that suits your financial needs. Right. Well, what would suit my financial need? What do you think my financial needs or capabilities or any of these other euphemistic phrases that you're bandying about? And then obviously you become kind of quite short with the person who works for the debt collection agency, because they're trying to collect your debt, which can charge you full of quite a lot of anxious anger. Anxiety leads into anger quite a lot of the time. It's my fight or flight response, and there is neither really that you can do with debt that fills you. I hope American Express aren't listening to this. That really fills you with well, no, that solves the problem. That's what I meant. Neither fighting debt nor flight from debt helps, unless you can perhaps go to, I don't know, Tahiti or somewhere. Maybe that's what Gauguin was running from. Wasn't big money back in his day. He must have been in a fair bit of debt, Gauguin, painting all that fruit. Do you like this orange? No. Why are you painting an orange, Gauguin? Paint something that we can, like, why? I can see an orange. You're not capturing anything like specifically like, oh, wow. I've never understood that. I'll go back to the debt in a minute, listener, but I've never understood that about Gauguin. Is that, oh, do you like my picture of a bowl of fruit? No, I can see a bowl of fruit, and you can't render anything about the fruit that I can't see. The human expression and soul is so kind of layered and changeable with things like weather and mood, expression and secret, and so many nuances that can kind of shift in an expression that can communicate different things. So many kind of textural and lighting changes that you can make when drawing someone to or maybe a human interaction. A moment that you've chosen to capture and render in a certain way tells us a whole multitude of different stories about what we can perceive and what's going on. Do you like this bit of fruit? No. Why? Why? Just fucking why? If you can tell me why, then maybe I'll tell you if you like the fruit. It's because I like fruit. Well, that's not good enough. That's not good enough, is it? Because I need more. Why am I looking at the painting of the fruit? Also, listener, I do understand that this is my personal feeling about Gauguin, and further than that, it's my ignorance about Gauguin, because there will be. I'm sort of. I understand enough about art, at least to know that I don't understand it at all, and that that you, if you like Gauguin and like art generally, you're probably right. It's one of those things like E. Cummings. Like I don't like E. Cummings at all. Just meaningless. It's rubbish, isn't it? Just tell me what you mean. Like, just stop mucking about. Nobody Not even the rain has such small hands. Well, what the fuck are you talking about, mate? Nobody, not even the rain. Well, that doesn't make sense, does it? Nobody, that's somebody. The rain, that's not somebody, is it? The rain isn't someone. So the rain doesn't have hands. Or, like, is meaning not important to anybody else? Do you want to look at this bowl of fruit? No. Do you know the rain? That person. It's not a person. I need to change my poem then. Fuck it. Fuck it. I think I liked that. So anyway, I'm by no means rich, far from it. Obviously, I mean, you can tell that from the size of the venues on tour that I play. I'm doing brilliantly, and I'm so grateful to everybody who's worked on my tour with me, that opened for me, and indeed that bought a ticket. If you bought a ticket to my show, then you are indelibly inscribed into my good book forever. But not yet either. We aren't at the stage yet whereby we might be playing bigger venues. And there will come to a point whereby I max out. I don't think there'll ever be a point. I'm not a comedian that I think I would ever like to play a venue that was too big. I don't think I'd even really like. Obviously, I'd like to because I'd like the money involved. But the Hammersmith Apollo, it always just struck me as a little bit too big. I don't know if you've ever watched comedy in the Hammersmith Apollo, but it's just a bit too fucking big. Comedy should be right there. You should be able to smell the person on stage if, they stink. But, even if somebody stank really bad at the Hammersmith Apollo, you couldn't smell them. Anyway, so I will use this credit card responsibly. I will make a little bit of a purchase and then pay off a little bit of a credit card and then make another little bit of a purchase the next month and then pay a little bit off of the credit card. And then I will make another little bit of a purchase and then pay off the credit card again. And this will be my monthly dance that I do. And I will do this for such a long time and with such discipline and commitment that I will go to a mortgage broker in 5 or 6 years' time, I imagine. And I will say, mortgage broker, good day. I'd like to buy a house. And the mortgage broker will say, well, it's all been flattened, hasn't it? Because of World War III. It's all, you could buy a plot of rubble if you'd like. But of course, you'll have to wait for the radiation to subside. Unless you want to live, you could go and live up in Buckinghamshire. In Buckinghamshire, there's no radiation there. In Berkhamsted, we've got some nice properties. Of course, they are all £6.5 billion each because of inflation. That's now. That's a combination of inflation and the fact that there are only a good few houses left, within the kind of radius of where you wanted to live. Of course, the centre of England now. That's that, or at least the financial hub where the government's relocated to. You could move up there to kind of Manchester, Leeds, Liverpool, that sort of area. But of course, you can't afford to live there anymore because that's where everything is now. And the pints are cheap down here, though. You mustn't drink them; they're full of radioactive waste. But they are cheap down here, so enjoy that. And if you now the North has got to deal with all the problems that the South has had to deal with all these years. Everything in Leeds is now a Pret. Everything. Just like London once was. Everything in Newcastle is now a Starbucks. Starbucks, a Pret. And if you're very lucky, if you're in a very bohemian area of Newcastle, then you might get to see something like a Coco di Mama pasta place, or maybe even an Itsu. if it's very bohemian and sort of rustic, then you might get to see like a pod sandwich place instead of the usual, or a Ben Hugo. You might get to see a Ben Hugo if you're very lucky, instead of Pret, which of course is completely serviceable and also completely and utterly everywhere, and so incredibly present in every nook and every cranny of the world that it becomes completely impossible to to imagine anything else. So bereft are we of any sort of imagination anywhere. It's just impossible to try, and it is easier to imagine the end of capitalism. No, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of capitalism. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than it is to imagine the end of Pret. But I had a Pret earlier, so I mean, therein lies the rub. Everybody, therein lies what we're dealing with. Jessie's got to go for semi-regular scans to the hospital to check on the baby that's inside her. And when she was checking on the baby, and when they were checking on the baby inside her, because it's not a regular scan, listener, okay? Because it's not a regular thing, I don't necessarily go in there every time, all right? I'm not in there every single time she goes for a scanner because they're every couple of weeks. And Jessie said, there's no point. You just wait here. I'll be back in a minute. It's no longer like a special thing where we hold hands and go, oh my God, I can't see what's happening, but I am being made to feel emotional by the fact that somebody has assured me that collection of light blue in a sea of dark blue is its hand. And I feel very, very emotionally committed to the bizarre random nature of shapes and sounds that we can see on the screen, and how I've been promised by a medical professional that those collection of sort of daubs of light blue on dark blue is something that we will, if we don't already grow to love. Perhaps it's that attitude that makes Jessie say maybe you should go and wait outside. But anyway, I wait in the coffee shop down the road at her behest. And I bought a bunch of books. I don't know if anybody else finds this when they go into a bookshop, but I feel like there are some books that I don't want to buy because I don't want it to be judged. Like, oh yeah, well of course you're going to buy that book. Like everybody's going to buy that book. Like, I don't want to be. What's the me equivalent of like a basic bitch? I hate the term basic bitch. Because it's one of those terms that like it never gets said by anybody who isn't also a basic bitch. The accusation of being a basic bitch is the most basic bitch thing that you could accuse. It's the most basic bitch accusation you could make, because you are a basic bitch, because your imagination doesn't expand beyond the realms of the accusation of basic bitch. You haven't found some more acute or interesting way to analyze who somebody is beyond the limitations of the accusation of basic bitch, which renders you, in all shape and form, a basic bitch. Soz about that. So whatever the male equivalent of that would be, like, you know, the aspirational alpha, red pill, Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, like what is a man these days kind of guy. But I don't know what the what the catch-all pejorative is for those men. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, why don't you leave the catch-all pejorative for those men in the comments below? I'd love to read it, and I'd love for you to comment and improve the algorithm situation. And if you care one jot about my algorithm, then why not leave me a comment? That'd be helpful. Even if you're listening to the podcast, why not hop over onto YouTube, leave a little comment underneath. Tell me that you're hating it. Go on, we'll have a fight. Nobody ever fights with me on the comment underneath videos on YouTube. It's just not one of the places where people have online argument. But I haven't said anything particularly incendiary, so maybe I will start doing that. Anyway, I'm in the bookshops, and I don't want to buy the books that are going to make me look like a basic bastard. I don't want to buy anything. So basically Francis Fukuyama's new book, The End of Liberalism or something. Liberalism and its discontents, or this is the end of something about liberalism anyway. And I thought, oh yeah, ugh. I looked at it and went, I want that. I'll read that. I enjoyed Identity by him and the Political Decay and whatnot, whatever the one before that was called. I did what I understood I enjoyed. And then I think it's almost as if Francis Fukuyama, who I always want to do in Slavoj Žižek's voice, it's like he knew that I didn't understand political decay and whatnot. What's it called? I'm looking behind me. I can't see it. I'm looking behind me. Where is it? Ah! Okay, well, that was bad podcasting. The Origins of Political Decay. I've just remembered it. I didn't even look. Fuck! So, yeah, he knew that I didn't understand that. He also knew that I thought it was too long. Or maybe he thought it was too long, and he decided I can't be bothered to write something about it again. And it's like I've always said about these fucking books. They don't need to be that long. They can be short. And this book is short. It is about liberalism. It's called The Decay of Liberalism or something like that. And it is short, and I wanted it. And then I thought to myself, yeah, of course you fucking want that, mate. What? Yeah, Liberalism in the title by Francis Fukuyama, and you're going to read it. And you're going to think, well, he wrote it and I've read it. And now we've got all the same information in our brains because he wrote the thing. So the information was in him and I read it. And now the information's in me too, which means I'm now as smart as Francis Fukuyama and I can have opinions about things in the world with the same. He'd probably be, on top of what it was to. He'd probably know what it was. Jesse, hi. I'm just podcasting. You're live on my podcast.
Okay, well, I've just found out that I'm going to be induced on Wednesday.
Listener, it's breaking news. She's going to be induced on Wednesday. You are hearing it here first, listener, okay? There is live breaking news.
You're not allowed to release this podcast, by the way, until the baby's alive. Otherwise, it's...
listener, I'm not allowed to release this podcast until the baby's alive. The baby is alive, baby. Come on. Jesse.
Until it's been... You can release this after the induction.
Well, I mean, come on. Okay, whatever. Anyway, we can... Of course,
anyway,
I won't. Anyway.
I'm going to ring and find out why it's been brought forward.
Okay, so Wednesday, and that is Wednesday the 16th, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I should probably cancel these gigs then.
Yeah.
Listener, anybody who was coming to see me in Bath on Saturday, I'm so sorry, but breaking news...
No, I mean, you might be able to do Saturday. I don't think you should do... Anyway, whatever, I just thought I'd tell you first.
You're very natural on the podcast today, Jesse.
They can't hear my voice, can they?
Yeah, I've put you on speakerphone.
No, you can. No, Alfie. That's why I did not consent to that.
Okay.
I did not consent to that.
Well, I'll play you this back later. And listener, if you've just heard Jessie, then she's listened to herself back and she's consented to being on the podcast. And if she hasn't, then you won't have hear any of this.
Thank you for picking up, even though you're doing a podcast. That's nice of you.
Well, I thought this might be quite fun, and
very all right.
But
a little guinea pig bunny for radio.
Guinea pig bunny, eh?
Guinea. Oh God.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. I
My
love you.
talk
Bye-bye.
radio. You love
Okay,
me.
I've got to go now. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Jessica. Bye. I love you. There you are, listener. An exclusive on the podcast. It is. It is. In induction time this Wednesday. Of course, we don't know. Obviously, one doesn't like to count one's chickens, do they? But there we are. Well, I feel kind of quite flustered by that, I suppose, and might be interesting for you to have my reaction in real time to the news that the baby's going to be coming on Wednesday. The day today is Monday, the 14th. That means the induction will happen on the 16th, which means that I've got 2 days left to relax in my idyll, my island of ultimate placidity, the being a father of 3. Yawn, stretch, and lie back in the calm. It's gonna feel like a like a headspace app for the next few days, isn't it? What's that? The sound of silence. Just hanging out with these 3 kids. Not got a care in the world for the next few days, because I just got these 3 kids in the situation. Okay. Well, wow. Then on Wednesday it'll be 4, won't it? And then we can deal with having 4 children, and we'll see how that feels. Do you know? What I wonder how great a skill I possess as a podcaster to move on now to something else. I wonder what subject that I could cover that perhaps could distract me from what it is that's happening right now. I've received no. I've received a payment. I need to work on my new show. There we go. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes to see if I'd written anything, which I suppose is cheating, given the necessarily totally improvised from nothing nature of this podcast. Yeah, I'm ready for this podcast to develop into its second phase. It's about to regenerate into something new. It's going to go on to phase 2 of what it is to be the Alfie Brown Show. And I don't know what that'll involve, but we're all very excited to find out what that entails. I know I am. Could it be guests? I want to do a talk radio thing. I want to have more visual content to be able to put out. And I got to write a new show. I've got to write a new show. And what that will entail at this particular moment in the unfolding of, geopolitical catastrophes and social and cultural upheaval, changing kind of language, meaning, identity. There's all sorts to be getting on with, and all sorts that I think as a basic bastard you'd really like my opinion on. Ladies and gentlemen, for this week, we will probably round off at around the half-hour mark. But one thing I would say is if you have any requests, A, for things you'd like me to talk about, B, for perhaps ideas for the podcast. Maybe I do like the idea of doing something kind of a talk radio, sort of a version of talk radio where you can come in and I can talk to you like I'm James O'Brien and you're, whoever he's being condescending to. There's lots of good ideas around and about, but for now, listener, possibly my last podcast as a father of 3, possibly, who knows? Until then, it's time for me to say good week to you. Bye-bye.